Yo people, welcome back to another review, this time Tales of the Underworld, and overall out of all these Tales series that they keep making at Star Wars, for me this ranks at second place. Definitely better in general compared to something like Tales of the Empire, but not quite on the levels of Tales of the Jedi. The reason why Tales of the Jedi worked so well was because it focused on two characters and every episode was a different point of the character's story, while having a few of the stories connect to the greater story of Star Wars, with examples like Ahsoka being there for Padme's funeral and Dooku killing Yaddle. All this while allowing us to see other characters cameo within the episodes and do things that actually matter. Like for example, in Ahsoka's episodes we got to see Anakin, Captain Rex and Bail Organa. And with Dooku we saw a young Qui-Gon, Palpatine and Mace Windu. Now as for this show Tales of the Underworld, we had Asajj Ventress' story which started from her death in the book Dark Disciple, one that they retcon so that she could appear in the Bad Batch Season 3 and future content, which I'm personally getting tired of this resurrection gimmick, although I will say at least this resurrection in particular makes more sense than the previous ones. I really liked that they did an episode that addressed the resurrection, or at least the beginning addressed the resurrection, especially after all the controversy that it had. And I think in terms of this story that they were trying to tell, it made sense, especially with the whole if she's alive, why doesn't she go back and look for Quinlan Vos? They cleared that up. I think it was pretty cool just to see Ventress try and live a regular life with a regular job. We know that she started off as a Jedi, then became the main assassin under Count Dooku, then she tried the bounty hunter thing, then she was working with Quinlan Vos, who she fell in love with, then she died, and here she is, regular, and she pretty much states she wants a peaceful life, she doesn't want to do anything crazy, and we know why. She's already lived through so much and gone through so much. That is until she connects with the new Padawan in a pretty cool dynamic. It reminded me of like a very basic Batman and Robin, where Batman is the serious one, and in this case that would be Ventress, and Robin is the Padawan who is energetic and gets on Batman/Ventress's nerves. As for the episodes themselves and what they were doing, it was pretty cool, but it kind of felt like a Rebels episode, especially episode 2/3. Like some of it just felt like they were doing this thing to move the plot, but not because it actually mattered in the greater scheme of things. And I feel like because the episodes were so short as well, it felt like they couldn't explore deeper themes and stories, which post Order 66, this era in particular is full of those things. So it feels like we could have got more, but we didn't because they can only do 15-minute episodes. One thing I want to highlight as well that I really liked was the whole paths thing that Quinlan Vos was setting up to help the Jedi to travel so that they don't get spotted or found out. I think that whole thing is pretty cool and it's all underrated. Everything that this guy's doing behind the scenes, it even ties with the Kenobi show where we saw some of the Quinlan Vos kind of trails in that show as well, and he has created more paths in general and he's really helped a lot of stranded Jedi, and I'd want to see more of this. I believe that Quinlan should get one of these Tales 3-part stories in the future because he's a character that they use him in this way where they tease him, they do cameos, they flirt with him, they show him around doing all these important things, always behind the scenes, they name drop him, whatever, but we never actually get to see him doing it. So I hope he gets his time to shine. We get to learn more about him and how important he is to this post Order 66 era. But yeah, the first episode for Ventress was about the start of her on-screen change in heart. We know when she was in that bounty hunter era, she was kind of 50-50. She was trying to find her way, kind of leaving that whole Sith Dooku stuff behind. Throughout these 3 episodes, she's obviously having to trust in people again, people who aren't named Quinlan Vos. We saw that further explored in episode 2, and by episode 3, we saw her mindset really fleshed out. But yeah, overall it was a solid set of episodes, and they've set it up nicely in case they were to have a Ventress spin-off show in the future, which honestly I wouldn't mind, but it has to be impactful. You're not just going to make this series and then just have filler and all these easy missions that we know she's going to succeed in. One negative, and it's not really a negative, it's just my preference, and I personally would have copied Tales of the Jedi's approach with Ventress, and I would have had episode 1, a very young Asajj Ventress when she's learning from her Jedi Master, learning the ways of the Jedi. Then episode 2, something to do with Dooku, learning under his ways, under his regime, just seeing her do a mission for Dooku or something along those lines. And then episode 3 could have been what we got for episode 1, and more about Ventress dealing with the light side, the dark side of the Force, how to use it, what's right, what's wrong, and just kind of getting her mindset more and understanding her as to why she's fully committed now into turning. Next is Cad Bane's episodes, and for me, I preferred these more because of the time jumps that we got, and we got to find out a lot about his backstory, Cad Bane was pretty much an orphan. He was roaming around in the streets with his best friend, kind of on that Oliver Twist wave where they were kids, they didn't know any better, they just had to do something to turn their lives around. They had nothing, they were trying to hustle just to even get food. So yeah, it made sense for his character. This is why he is the guy who he became. But overall, it was nice to see and keep learning as to why Cad Bane really became this lone wolf bounty hunter that he is, and we witnessed in the Clone Wars. I like seeing that the hat he wore came from his mentor, but overall, as a kid, he tried to make the most out of a bad situation. He had no parents, but he kept going, trying to make something out of himself. Then he loses his best friend, he loses his mentor, he loses his girlfriend, he then kills his best friend, which kind of puts an end to that chapter of his life, and I guess it's a moving on point for him so that he can explore the galaxy, move on to other stuff, which eventually would have led us to him becoming a bounty hunter, which personally I wish we could have got a bit more of. However, the most important part is the overall message that they were trying to give, which is that Cad Bane being close to any person would just end up with that person leaving his life, whether it was just natural life events, betrayal, death. So it makes you kind of feel bad for him that he has this sense of trust issues, which is why he's always alone. It adds this extra layer of having to do this whole process again, of getting to meet new people, having to trust them again. He doesn't want to do any of that, and he bottles in all these problems, all these trauma that Kobe went through, and he's just hiding it under this cold-blooded killer persona named Cad Bane. Again, just like with the Ventress episodes, I do have a negative, but again, it's a preference thing. Maybe we could have seen some more impactful episodes, maybe connecting Cad Bane to Jango Fett or Boba Fett, seeing the early rivalry begin with Boba Fett in particular, especially after seeing what they had in the original Clone Wars seasons that got cancelled. Cad Bane is the one that gives Boba Fett that dent on his helmet. But yeah, overall, that sense of adding more meaning and more value to his story and his impact on the galaxy overall. But yeah, I'm still happy that we got this. We got to flesh out a bit of backstory. They did this well. They did the usual, have sympathy for him as a kid. This is where his life turned and he went down the dark path, I guess. But yeah, overall, I think this was better than Tales of the Empire, and I personally hope we get to see a Cad Bane series, or see him maybe in that new Darth Maul show that they've announced, or something like that. But definitely we need to see more Cad Bane. I'm happy with what we got in these 6 episodes. Could these episodes have been more ambitious? I personally think so. I feel sorry for all these people that don't watch Star Wars animated shows, because this is pretty much the most consistent form of content that Disney actually makes, and it's mostly because who's in charge? Dave Filoni. Now, as much as he has struggled here and there in live action stuff, Dave Filoni keeps proving animation is what he's best at. And personally, I take him off all the other stuff that he's doing, just do animation. You can help with the live action stuff in terms of guiding people and the do's and the don'ts, but animation is where this guy just flourishes and does his best work. But yeah, as always, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Which Tales show is your favourite so far? Which story out of Ventress's and Cad Bane's did you prefer? Which 2 characters would you like to see next, or what would you like to see them explore next? I'd appreciate if you could hit that like button as well, sub to the channel, and thank you for your time.